Bro, who are you? What's your name?
My name is Doran Hamm is my full name. Mm-hmm. Most people know me as Dory.
Word.
Born and raised in Dummerston, Vermont. Right here. And I wandered away for a good long bit, and now I've wandered back for a good bit.
Nice. Well, we are. We at Sunflower Court are super excited to interview. So how did Dummerston? That's right up the block, not too far from. So are you Brattleboro? How did you get to Brattleboro?
Dummerston is really. Brattleboro's Dummerston is the country suburb of Brattleboro.
Facts.
Born and raised in an old farmhouse.
Right.
That's true. I was technically born in Brattleboro at Brattleboro Memorial, but I've raised my entire life in an old 1850s farmhouse.
Your mom is. So your mom. Is that? Do I know your mom? Your mom, like curly hair, blonde. So she. No.
So my mom actually she still teaches a little bit. She's in her late 70s. She teaches at the Greenwood School. Which is a private school for kids with learning disabilities in Putney. She actually was interviewed, she was in Ken Burns' documentary The Address, which is all about the Gettysburg Address.
Oh, yes.
About the Greenwood School, and they do the Gettysburg Address for a bunch of students with severe learning disabilities and severe speech impediments and stutters and stuff like that.
What is her name?
Marcia Hamm.
Why do I think I know her, bro? Anyways, okay, so you were born in Brattleboro Memorial.
Yep.
And what year was that?
That was in the 80s, 85.
85Zs. 85Zs. And so did you say high school?
High school, middle school and elementary in Dummerston, tiny little one, and high school at Brattleboro Memorial High.
What was that like?
Any big regional school, because it's like the one that 5 or 6 towns all pour into.
Right.
It's kind of I feel like it's a different type of jungle. It's a country jungle as opposed to like a city jungle school. But it was still like.
But it's a public school. I went to a private school from 7th grade to 12th grade. Couldn't imagine going to a public school. Public high school, you guys, I don't know how you guys did it.
It was a nightmare. It was not a joy.
This is what I'm saying, bro. How many people are in your graduating class?
It was like 300.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That's how many people were in my whole high school.
Yeah. Upon reflection, I wish I'd been able to do something like that. Yeah.
What did you do? So after Brattleboro High, what did you go to college?
So I took a year off.
Okay, great. You took a year off. This is I toured Sweden and Denmark with my high school magicals choir. Went over there, and that was like the first time I found out about. That's what they do. Over there, they graduate high school. They take a year off.
Yeah, everyone kind of heads out.
Yeah. What'd you do?
Yeah, so
Before you go into that.
Sure.
Did you decide that, or like you went into senior year knowing,
I kind of knew that I was not ready to go to college. I didn't know what I wanted to do or where I wanted to be.
Right.
And my parents had traveled a lot when they were young, and they encouraged it. I didn't have a ton of money,
right.
So I knew I was going to have to work part of my year off to save the money to be able to do a travel. But my parents were supportive. I had a home to kind of always come back to crash to,
right?
And that allowed to traveling throughout my 20s. But so I saved money,
which is a huge thing. Having
that's
a home,
everything.
Having
it's a privilege.
That's a huge thing to have a home base,
having a landing base. My parents never really had a ton of money to give me. They were both working teachers,
right?
But I always had a home to come into,
right?
And they always wanted me back because usually I was wandering away.
Right.
But
do you have brothers and sisters?
2 older adopted brothers.
Okay, amen.
And they are far older. They're 9 and 11 years older.
Oh, okay, word.
So they were already by the time I was 9, 10. They were had already flown the coop.
Right. And so that year. So you talked about you already knew when you graduated you were going to do this.
I applied to the Massachusetts of Liberal Arts, North Adams, Massachusetts, a little liberal arts school, to study theater and arts management, thinking that I wanted to be involved with nonprofits, which I am. So I guess I'm doing it. Right. And then I deferred a year. Just because I knew I just needed time to float around, get myself fully immersed in the water,
right?
Be a little just really needed to get out of Dodge and be somewhere else for a hot second.
And it was a year. It was exactly a year.
Exactly a year. Mm-hmm. And I went to backpacked Europe with a friend, and I funny enough actually, so that year I was working at the Latches Theater,
really
slinging popcorn and then doing a bunch of little side jobs too. And at the same time actually, so my parents didn't.
So what's this like 2000?
Oh, when was this? This was
early 2000.
2003 was when I graduated high school.
Well, what was the real quick? What was Brattleboro like? The downtown scene.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was not. It was far less gentrified. It was way sleepier. It felt more. It felt more country town than I think it does now. Feels a little bit too more. It's bustly and bustly.
Is it now? It's hustle and bustle and modern.
Yeah, and it's just more gentrified. There's just so much more money, and then the other side of that is so much more poverty and so many more people struggling with addiction and stuff like that. And that was also before the drug corridor that opened up through Vermont, totally with heroin that just changed everything. But yeah, so Brattleboro was just sleepy little kind of artist hippie weird town.
Still is. But there were more people on the I know. So 2013, 2014, 15, 16, I'm out on the street playing music all the time. I don't see that at all. But I'm sure that when 2000s, that you were seeing that.
There was a lot more of that. It was definitely more of there was it's not. It's still once again, I'm male representing. I feel safe on the streets.
Amen.
It's easy for me to walk at night and I'm not worried. But also, I definitely know, people feel less safe. There's been more violent crime. There's just a lot more. Anytime when people are struggling, there's always just, you're just going to see more of the struggle.
Right.
And I think, the juxtaposition of the more money in town, more tourism with the more struggle really says a lot about where we are. I think anytime you're blaming panhandlers, it's looking in the wrong direction, It's I think any town, when you live in a town that relies on tourism, you're always going to run into the problem of needing money from out of town to survive. And it's the businesses that have always relied on that are the ones that I feel sometimes just come and go. Where I think the businesses that tend to your local community as well as tourists are the ones that survive. So I just have never bought that storyline. That it's the panhandlers are the problem.
Seriously.
It's like the rising rents are the problem.
Facts.
The climate change affecting our tourist seasons are the problem.
Facts.
Like the second home owners eating up what little leftover housing.
Seriously.
And is the problem. And I've lived downtown now for 9 years.
Right.
And it's just like I get it. I get what folks are saying, but it's always just like primarily a bunch of white people hiding in the forest that have been able to avoid most of the problems of the world. And I think the problems of the world are finally catching them a little bit. And so
a little
they
mission
have to
creep.
deal with the struggle. And also, Brattleboro has a lot of more of the mental health resources in southern Vermont. We're one of the hubs in the state. Mm-hmm. So, and I started getting involved a little bit in town government. Mm-hmm. I was part of a tenants union during the pandemic.
Right.
So I started getting into housing issues and studying what was going on in my community and on.
What'd you get out of that?
Just how atrocious that the housing stock is in Vermont. And then it's roughly 1 in 4 homes in the state of Vermont are second homes.
Wow, that's a lot, dude.
It's a lot.
And
But I think Brattleboro was somewhere around 23%.
That's
roughly 1 in every 4 houses.
That's crazy, dude. Yeah. And so I
have some towns in like Woodstock, still tourist towns. They're 75-80% of the towns are second homes.
Wow.
So no one actually lives there. It's I think you have a mix of that plus the pandemic. That means a lot of people bought second homes and then they didn't resell them after because they're expecting the next shoe to drop.
Right.
So it's just sort of you have so much more money flowing through, but a lot of it's not necessarily sticking to the town.
Right.
And then rents are going up, just skyrocketing. And then they say for a healthy rental market, mm-hmm. you want to have 2 to 5% vacancy, mm-hmm. and I think we're at 0.25 vacancy, something like that, to 0.5. So less than 0.5% of vacancy.
Right.
So it's so if something happens to your housing, you have to leave or you're on the street. So it's just there's no give. No. And then if you find an apartment, you have a lot of predatory landlords then charging $1,500 to $2,000 for tiny studios, All
right, so you had that year off, or not off. You had that year working.
Well, year off. Yeah, I was part off, part working. So
the Latches. You were at the Latches.
I was at the Latches, and I was working odd jobs as well. Mm-hmm. And so that year, my great uncle passed away. He was a really cool guy named mm-hmm. my uncle Ben. He was a really sort of quiet guy. Never had children. He was a really independent guy. He actually he was getting to the point where soon he was not going to be able to drive his old pickup truck. Mm-hmm. And he actually passed away in the in his pickup truck in Dunkin' Donuts parking lot. Oh. But right before, he was just it was kind of how he would, in his early 80s, it was kind of how he would want to go before he lost his independence, He was just being out in the world.
Amen.
And he left me, my teenage self, $10,000.
Nice.
Yeah, and I spent part of that on a car, and then I saved the rest, and then I worked and saved up money, and that money went to my year off.
Amen.
So I did an Outward Bound trip down in Texas.
Outward Bound, I remember those.
Yeah, so it was a month-long backpacking trip in the desert and canoeing down the Rio Grande.
Whoa!
That was incredible.
So you're in Texas? Is this Texas?
Yeah, this is right in the Chihuahuan Desert near El Paso. And
what was that like, dude?
It was crazy, but it was the best part was that I needed to kind of get over. I was afraid of a lot, and so I needed to my teenage self needed to confront being afraid over and over again, and then get over it. Right. And so I just needed I threw myself into a bunch of things where I was uncomfortable, and that being a big one, and it was incredibly educational and amazing. And then I came back, and then I backpacked Europe for a couple months with a friend. I started off in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, and then I went to go visit a friend in Denmark, and then I went through Germany by myself, and then I visited friends in England, and then I went to Italy by myself.
What do you think about being born in America?
Yeah, good. Yeah, I don't know. I think I would rather be in Ireland.
Okay, okay, yes, word. Did you go there? You went to.
Yeah, I didn't go to Ireland on that trip. Actually, I backpacked Europe. I spent pretty much, that was the beginning of my love of traveling, and then I went to college for a couple of years, and then I immediately after college I got a job touring linguistical education in Italy.
But do you think Europe is better than America?
I mean, I think I prefer it, but I don't know. I think it's just.
Were you happy to come back?
I mean, I have an amazing community here, and I love Vermont. I guess I'll say it this way: if I'm going to be in the United States, Vermont's where I want to be.
Amen.
It's
Amen.
like I love it here. The nature is beautiful and directly here.
Facts.
Food is good. The water's good.
The water's very good.
And lots of amazing artists.
Amen.
I love the artist community. The artists and the people here are really beautiful. So that keeps bringing me back. And also, I also think it's a privilege to leave.
Yes.
If you got the money to leave and you can leave,
Yes.
Where the place still needs people to fight for it and
Right.
fight for your neighbors here and be part of a community. So I think some part of me I was lucky to be able to live abroad multiple times in my 20s. And
Same.
I would just come home, I would live at my parents' house, I would save money, work, save money, and then I'd piss off somewhere for a while and work and live and then come back. And I did that throughout most of my 20s.
I cried each time I had to come back to America. What color?
Blue.
Last music you streamed?
Ooh, last music I streamed would be Cool.
Papa Schwinn, favorite place to see music in Brattleboro?
Stone Church.
Favorite restaurant in Brattleboro?
Probably still Shinlaw.
Shinlaw's, yeah. Hunter lived alone. Hunter had no phone. He was born before those things were made. Hunter lived a lie. He used his one good eye to stare at the sun and shout for change. Hunter had a dog